every successful business owner you talk to is probably going to point to when you talk to where the difference maker is probably going to go to their mindset. You're just going to have so many ups and downs. I mean, you just got to have that resilience and grit to be able to, you know, to be able to keep going on. And
the number one quality a modern CEO can have is humility.
Mm.
And I think it takes a great deal of humility to stand up and be vulnerable in front of your people.
We forget that best is a lot more than just revenue.
Yeah.
when we talk about where that grit comes from, it comes from, failing and understanding, hey, I can overcome that.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and True Grit Todd Liles. A coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
Aaron Hagan is the CEO of Mr. Sparky Mid-America, a leading electrical services provider. A second-generation electrician, he started in the trade working alongside his dad before venturing into business ownership. Through resilience and strategic growth, he expanded his company from a small two-person operation generating $300,000 annually to a multi-location business surpassing $43 million in revenue in 2024. With a goal of reaching 100 million, Aaron is focused on leadership development, franchise expansion, and diversifying into HVAC and plumbing services. His business acumen and dedication to team culture have earned him recognition with authority brands, where he plays a key role in mentoring new franchise owners.
Aaron, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, man, we're really excited to talk to you. We know you've gone through so many things in business, facing bankruptcy nearly twice, losing every one of your team members in 2017, and to be sitting here at $43 million in revenue. And Alan, not just $43 million in multiple services, but in electrical only.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
So we're really excited about this.
It's a electrical, I think, is an amazing service, Aaron. We do electrical at our business, and it's got a great gross margin, but it's probably the least demanded service. So to do 43 million is pretty admirable.
Absolutely.
So you started with just two people and $300,000 in revenue, and now you're heading towards 70 million and aiming for 100. What's the biggest mindset shifts that help you scale, Aaron?
That's a great question. Yeah, a mindset, man. That's a key. I think every successful business owner you talk to is probably going to point to when you talk to where the difference maker is probably going to go to their mindset, and mainly that's because uh, you're just going to have so many ups and downs. I mean, you just got to have that resilience and grit to be able to, uh, you know, to be able to keep going on, and I believe that's that is definitely probably my strength is that grit. And now I don't know if you're born with grit. I don't know if people are born with grit, but I think you dang sure can earn it at that point. And I think that's kind of a bit of my story there. And it's funny. So you're talking about mentoring different smaller franchises as they come in, and that's something I love doing. And I'll tell a quick story because it'll help explain this, I think, a little bit deeper. When I was meeting with these guys, we just had our conference, and during our conference, I had a panel that I was leading, and it was with these guys, with the guys that we mentored, four different companies that we mentored over this past year, and we met multiple times before we got there just to make sure they understood what was going on, what we're going to talk about. It was important to me that we gave information out to the other, to other business owners out there that they could utilize and use. And we weren't just up there, spitting out a bunch of rhetoric that made them look better, but really didn't help anybody at that point. And so I always thought it was really important to be able to talk about being very vulnerable and talking about the failures that you have, because honestly, that's when we talk about where that grit comes from. It comes from failing and understanding, hey, I can overcome that. I can, I can move past that. And that was the one big thing. I think at my core, I want to be able to help people. Uh, and I think the best way that people are able to receive what you want to tell them is by being real with them and being vulnerable and letting them know, hey, here are mistakes that I made. And then they're opened up to be able to, they can relate to you and go like, okay, yeah, this guy, I've been through this. He knows what I'm going through. He understands what I'm going through. And, um, and then they can hear what I have to say after that, that hopefully they get the message of the different things that you can do. Uh, it's funny. See, it feels like every time, I do this or I talk in front of people or do something like that, it's talking about failures. There's a lot of different failures that go on with that. Uh, I just think, I just don't shy away from that. I'm very open to be able to talk about those things because I believe that's how it's going to help. It's going to help my operators that are running my locations to be able to understand that, hey, listen, failure failure it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's what you learn from that failure is the difference, and that's where the grit comes in, because you learn that, hey, yeah, I did make a mistake, but I learned from it and I moved forward from that. I didn't blame that on someone else. I didn't put that on a situational type thing. Oh, that just happened here. No, I took that failure, and I love what Nick Saban. I think Nick Saban said this. Uh, you know, what exactly he said? He said, "Don't waste a good failure. Don't waste a good failure." And what a great statement. We can learn from those things, and it makes us stronger. It makes us better operators, makes us better business owners. If we take those things and go like, okay, that sucked. How can I get better? What can I do to
Yeah.
better? That long-winded answer. Sorry, Alan, but that's
No,
where
I,
we're
I
at.
love it. It reminds me of an article somebody sent me a couple of years ago, and it was from the Wall Street Journal. I'm not a Wall Street Journal reader myself. You may find it hard to believe, but I'm not. But the article was about the greatest qualities of a modern CEO, and the number one quality a modern CEO can have is humility.
Mm,
And I think it takes a great deal of humility to stand up and be vulnerable in front of your people.
mm-hmm.
But I think it sends a great message to them when you're willing to be vulnerable and say things like, "Guys, I don't have the answer. Help me out here." And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that's where you're going there, Aaron, and I love it.
I'm going to put a question out to you, Alan, and Aaron. We'll let Aaron answer first, but you talk about failing, and I feel like only in the last year and a half that I've been able to stand in front of my guys and go, "Hey, look, I really screwed up right here. This is exactly what I did." And do it in a way to where I wasn't overcome with shame and guilt and just being embarrassed. Like, no, I totally messed this up. And because there's a side of me for sure for a very long time, especially as a trainer, consultant, teacher, that, it's my job to be right. And if I'm wrong, I'm not doing my job, which I know better than that now. So I want to ask you guys both. I'm gonna go to you first, Aaron. Uh, what about that, man? Was that ever an issue for you dealing with that shame and embarrassment of, yeah, I made a mistake, but now I'm going to talk about it?
You know, yes. I mean, someone would be lying if they didn't say that wasn't a piece, and it wasn't difficult to be able to bring and talk about those dark moments where you weren't this polished, you know, this polished person or polished business person or polished leader, whatever that is at that point. So yeah, it's always been difficult. It's gotten easier. Obviously, as you start to see success, it becomes a little bit easier because at that point you go like, okay, uh, I have I have figured some things out and I've gotten better. But I think it's been an important piece. I think early on, It was really important to me, and I give there's a lot of credit to being here right now from being able to ask questions that other people weren't willing to ask in a room. You
Mm,
know, when you get into a room of people that were successful and you get all these people in there and they're you know, you don't want to look like the silly one that has a silly question, and they're not willing to ask these people that have done it, have been there, and have been successful in doing these things. And I was just a guy that would go like, "Listen, I've got nothing to lose at this point. I'm this little bitty contractor down in Rogers, Arkansas. I got this little bitty shop. I got nothing to lose. I'm just going to ask the question at that point, and dug in, and I was able to build some great relationships. And Patrick Kennedy, which obviously started Mr. Sparky, was a mentor of mine and answered a lot of those silly questions, back in the day, which means a
another
lot. And I'm here
Irishman,
today
Alan.
I know
because of
him
that.
well. I
That's
knew him
right.
well. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's amazing how there is an attractiveness in someone who is vulnerable and curious, but yet not desperate.
Right.
Because those two can go very close hand in hand. And
Absolutely.
desperation turns people off. Being curious, being humble, being, totally okay with saying, "Hey, I screwed up. And I'd love to ask you some questions so I don't do it
Mm.
again," versus, "Can you give me something?" It's the same thing. It's just a different approach.
Right,
Alan?
absolutely. I think for me, Todd and Aaron, I suffered with imposter syndrome for several years.
Hmm.
Like I just was like, wow, one of these days I'm going to get found out, right? And I think I was afraid to reinforce that as a younger leader by saying I don't have the answer, right?
Hmm.
So I would make it up and do what I needed to do. But I think once I start doing it, um, sharing my need for an answer or asking for help and going to the team and saying, I don't know the answer to this. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Once I saw the power in that,
Hmm.
I found it much easier to do. And, you know, it gets better as you get older and more mature, I think, as well. So
Yeah, no
for me,
question.
that was it.
Well, Aaron, you've been scaling over several states now. How many locations are you guys currently at?
9 locations, 9 different cities. Yeah.
You're at 9 locations, and I know that was a real strain on your family there. You've told me a very powerful story about your wife asking you what type of father did you want to be.
Yeah.
So you had to make some key decisions to step out of the daily grind and actually trust your people. So tell us about that. Tell us that story and how that's been impactful for you.
Yeah. It was I remember that moment like it was yesterday. And so in 2013, I decided I had a guy approach me that owned a Mr. Sparky in Oklahoma City, and it was just him. It wasn't much of a business. He was struggling, and asked me to buy it from him or take it over from him at that point. And honestly, my goal um, was to be much bigger than I felt like that I could do in Northwest Arkansas alone. And so it kind of fit into that, and so I took on that. And honestly, at that point, you know there were no books out there to tell you how to start a multi-location electrical service company at that point in different cities. There were some that were doing it within the same city and kind of a spoke and hub type deal, but they're never in different cities, different states and stuff like that. And so I went out, I was trying to figure it out myself, and I just didn't have the answer. All I knew was that I couldn't fail. I had too much at stake, and I would drive back and forth from Oklahoma City, and I would spend, you know, 3 days in Oklahoma City and 3 days and nights, and I would drive back and work a couple days in Northwest Arkansas. And the next week, I'd spend 3 days in Northwest Arkansas and 2 there, and I was just kind of split it back and forth. And around that same time, our youngest son was born, and my wife's at home with him and our other son, and it just became to be a real struggle. I wasn't at home. I was on the road a lot. When I wasn't on the road, I was fielding calls. I was doing everything you could possibly do to try to keep it. There was a true fear. I mean, I'll just say that there was a real fear that was in me, and it really probably drove me as much as anything. And there's a fear of failing, that was there. And I remember many of those drives back and forth. I didn't want to be on the road. That wasn't what I wanted, but also didn't want to fail that spot. I remember driving back and forth and going like, in my car driving from Oklahoma City and going like, I will not fail. This cannot fail. I will not fail. I will not fail. This cannot fail. I will figure this out, and that was my thought process, going through it. And at one point my wife just said, hey, we got to talk.
Mm.
This isn't sustainable. This isn't good. And she asked, she was like, what kind of father do you want to be? Do you want to be a father that's present in their kid's life, or do you want one that's on the road all the time? Because right now, I mean, this isn't good, and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be a part of my kid's life. I always wanted to have a family. I wanted to be a good dad. I come from a family that has. I have an amazing dad. I wanted to be able to be that, and so but I also had this desire inside of me to do something more, and so it wasn't like I didn't at that I made a decision that I was going to be the father. I was going to be a present father, but also at the same time I had to figure out how do I rewrite the playbook, because I don't want to let off the gas and put on the brakes and slow everything down. I want to keep driving. I want to keep growing. So how do I do that? And it just I had to put more faith in the people that I put around me. And honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better gift from my wife for anything in business than to have that conversation, because after that, um, I, you know, I the I still went back and forth, but wasn't near as much. I cut that off, and drastically as we opened more locations, it was less and less that I would do, because I put more faith and stuff in the leaders that I put in place there. And then I also made an investment, which I made an investment in this video conferencing software. And you're talking about back in 2014, I think is 2014, 15, when I bought this video conferencing software. And I think at that point, um, maybe it's 2015 is when I invested in it. And I had 3 locations. I wasn't making any money, at this point. I was just trying to just pay the bills at this point. But all this stuff was in mind. If I want to grow bigger, I got to figure out how I can do this. And I had this whole goal. I wanted to feel like one. I wanted our organization, no matter how many locations, to feel like, hey, we're one organization. Um, and so I bought this video conferencing, and it cost over $100,000 to be able to put this in my 3 different locations and put and have it set up where we could have meetings. And I wanted a camera that was on whoever was whoever was training, and then I wanted one on to see who was sitting in the seats, was getting trained. And we still do that today. 9 locations, every one of them have the exact same setup. Not the setup we had then. We've upgraded, obviously, from that piece, and now it's much better. But now I can see when I go in and we have our huddles in the morning. I get to see their faces. I get to see the faces of all the guys, and I know them. Like, I'll meet them in person at one of our events that we have, and it feels like I already know them. Feels like, hey, we met in person multiple times because we've talked every day, or I've seen them every day on the video. And those 2 things uh, just made our world that much closer. It was more like running a single location when I figured that piece out, that we could still have that communication back and forth, even though I wasn't in front of them. So now I could be in front of them in the mornings, every single morning, without being in that certain location. And so those 2 things probably, to answer your question, that was a big deal. That was a big turning point. Honestly, we would not be where we are today had I not made that decision. Honestly, I would have tried to carry the load and do everything that I thought needed possible, and we would have continued to struggle
Yeah.
at that point,
I,
honestly.
I want to point out that there's a decision that was made long before that one. Because your wife came and had this conversation with you, and I'm not saying that if you hadn't have changed, that would have led to divorce. I don't know your wife. She might have just continued to struggle with this and silently been unhappy, but she wouldn't have been happy. So you
Right.
and your wife had made a commitment way in advance, way before the business, that you guys were going to operate a family with a certain approach and a certain level of respect. And I think that decision is important because if that wouldn't have been made, you could have just kept on doing what you were doing and struggling. So I'd say kudos to both of you for
Absolutely.
having putting your family first.
Absolutely. Aaron, you mentioned plans to expand into HVAC and plumbing. What lessons from your electrical growth will you apply to that transition?
This is funny because I haven't said this, Todd, I haven't said this to you before, but we had a conversation way back in the day, and I can't remember the year it was. And I don't know if you remember this at all, but I came in and to one of our electrical training classes, and I walked in, and I was a nobody, little bitty small company, had nothing going, but I had these big dreams, and at that point, obviously, my plan was to go into heating and air plumbing and have everything all in one spot and be able to do that like everyone else was doing. And I remember having this conversation, and I'll be honest, you pissed me off that day. I was really mad. I was mad at you, but you were honest. You were like, I was like, hey, what do I need to do to be able to start a heating and air company? What do I need to do? And you were like, kind of just nonchalant. Hey, you know what? I think you need to be much better of an electrical contractor, doing electrical, be much better at what you're doing before you even think about doing anything else out there. And I was like, you mother trucker. I mean, I will show you. And I appreciate the honesty, and at that point, it was 100% honest and 100% right. Like I I I'm not, this isn't bragging or anything like that, but we are good at what we do. And we're good at what we do because we focused on being really good at doing this. I'm really good at opening new locations and getting them profitable, even from a very startup position. That's what we're good at. We haven't really done M&A type stuff. We haven't went in and bought other businesses for that point. Mostly it's been startups, and it's been what we've been good at, honestly, because that's what I'm comfortable with, and that's what I felt like we've been really good at. So to answer that question, I haven't looked at it as closely, because the thing that I know is to be able to do that, I've got to have really good operators
Yes.
to partner with me to be able to go into that space, because it's not my space. It's not the area that I want to go. So as we get closer to making those decisions, it's going to be when we can find some other people to partner with us that are really good in that space and could help us grow. So,
Well, Aaron, be prepared to be even more angry with me when you listen to the episode with Wyatt Hepworth.
oh,
Because
really?
yes, and part of the reason why was that I actually said the opposite to Wyatt, and I'll let you listen to that and know why. And it was for very good reasons. But this is what I would tell you now at where you're at. I believe you can do $100 million in electrical only. I believe you already have the resources and the capabilities of finding operators. And I think if you do 100 million in electrical only, you're just a few short years from doing 2 to 300 million when you add HVAC, and you're ready now. So don't wait too much longer. You're now ready. Do you agree, Alan?
I absolutely agree. I would ask you a question, kind of a little bit off script here, Aaron. I greenfielded a location here in Austin. My company's in Houston. I greenfielded a location in Austin, and it was tough.
Hmm.
It was tough. Well, first of all, it was the first year of COVID, so this guy with a weird accent is arriving in Austin wearing a mask, telling people to trust me and come work for me, right? So that wasn't great, but
Right.
but um, I know how hard it is to get profitable, and it took us a couple of years. Actually, we're only starting to get profitable now, really. But what is the key to getting profitable so quick for you, Aaron? How have you been able to do that in a new location? And what percentage of your revenue are you spending on marketing? I'm just curious, like what that all looks like for anyone thinking of starting a greenfield.
Yeah. So it's been a process. We've done it 9 times now, and we tend to get a little bit better every time, and a lot of failures and going like, okay, that was dumb. I don't want to do that again. That cost me a lot of money. And in Austin, it cost me a lot of money. We have a Mr. Sparky there in Austin, and that was one that I was like, man, I love Austin. We're going to go in here hot. And so we went in and I poured a lot of marketing money into that, and it just it didn't pay off. It took a whole lot longer than what we had done, what we had done in the past, and that has been, what. So to answer your question, what we've learned, and I'll be very transparent, what we've learned is I love having I love having partners. I love the fact that I'm part of this franchise, that any city that we go into, that typically will either have a plumbing or a heating and air company that's doing well. You know, they've got some a client database, and I can go partner with them and we can help each other to be able to grow. And that has been the biggest thing that I've taken recently. And we started so we did Wichita. We started Wichita in 24. We just finished the first full year, 12 months. Just finished the first 12 months in Wichita electrical, and we will finish the year at a little over 4 million in the first. Sorry, 3 million, not 4 million. We're creeping up on 4 million, but 3 million in the first year from a very beginning of a greenfield starting location, which is a new record by far. It's something, but it's just because we've learned. What we've done is, um, I've taken some stuff that I've learned from Tommy Mello, what stuff that he's done where he's went out and he's built teams, to be able to move into these areas. So that's what we started doing. We started taking, now we'll hire our ops manager well before we open the location, and then we'll start building a team that wants to move with him there, and we'll get at least a couple different guys that are going, and they'll start out there. And then this has been easier, and I can be honest with you, this is easier when you grow to the size that we are, and because there are a lot of people that are more willing to work with us than they were when we were a little bit small contractor. Now I can make a phone call and I usually know who that guy is in that area who owns that speed pace, and they're really open to be able to work back and forth with us. Back in the day, it wasn't that. I would call and talk to people, and I had to offer up all kinds of stuff. Hey, I will I'll do your hookups for free. You just let me get into that database and let me do some stuff to be able to do that. And so it's gotten a lot easier as we've grown to be able to do those partnerships. But right now, man, they are strong. It's super strong and it's super helpful, and we go in there with a very small marketing budget now, and now we can grow into that because it takes a while to be able to build, to be able to build a spot, especially in the digital age today, to be able to get where you're pouring in that. So we'll do what a lot of other people do along with that strategy of outbounding. We do a ton of outbounding in our new locations off of
Great.
the databases from the other franchises in that area.
Yeah, so that makes a lot more sense now. That from an outside perspective, it sounds like that might also be maybe one of the potential challenges of opening up one of those other divisions, because you've learned how to really leverage your partnerships with Benjamin
Yeah,
Franklin and the 1 hours, and that would damage those relationships across any new location start.
Yeah.
So that's some good insights there. Let's switch over and talk about that grit that you started off with, because you have certainly faced many challenges. Um, I've heard you say you've hit rock bottom twice, and each time you rebuilt
yeah,
smarter. So you have faced bankruptcies twice. Now, it's unclear to me if you went through them or if you came near to them. So, what I want to do is I want to ask you about that first or the second bankruptcy. I'll let you pick the one that you think is the most impactful, and just walk us through what happened and then ultimately how you turned it around.
sure. So it's only one. I
It
did
was
go
only
through a
one.
bankruptcy in 2010. 2010. I think we weren't, and I think the other point was that we talked about losing nearly everything. We lost every one of our techs in a matter of a year in 2017, and had to rebuild from that point. It wasn't as dire because I was smarter at that point, and I had I had cash set back to be able to get through difficult times, and so we were. And honestly, so the stuff that I learned through the first piece is what got me through the second piece,
Gotcha.
honestly. So
So that's the two
I'll
rock
lay that.
bottoms:
So
the bankruptcy and then
yep,
the 2017
yep,
loss.
absolutely.
Alan, I might be more interested in how in the heck he lost everybody. You want to?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that story, Aaron. So, what went
Uh,
wrong that everybody left, and what did that teach you about hiring and culture?
Yeah, um, that's a great question. It's another thing. I'm just going to be vulnerable and let everybody else know that you make mistakes. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of like the Clifton Strengths. It used to be called Strength Finders. So it's something that I've done for years, and it's something that we do with every new leadership position that comes into leadership. We give them this test along with some other personality type tests, but this one basically gives you your top five strengths there. And I say that because you understand my number one strength out of 32 different strengths they have out there. My number one strength is competitiveness, is being competitive, and so everything in my mind is better when you're competing. I just have fun competing. And I built a culture around competition. And it wasn't it wasn't that my heart was in the wrong place, or that I was teaching it. It was just that I was driving competition so hard that we had guys that um, became became real terrorists, in our organization. All they cared about was the recognition and the win and all that kind of stuff. And I, without knowing it, I was fueling that fire. I was fueling that. When we decided in 2016, we really started digging in to our core values and our mission statement. And we worked really hard. We worked for probably 6 months straight of just making sure that, we put out core values that were true to us, and it was something that was true to what we believed and true to what the kind of business that we want to run, that we were in. And then we started really leaning on those core values, and as we started leaning on those core values, it began to really shine a light on some of these, you know quote unquote terrorists, that we had in our organization. And we had to make some decisions and let to go some of our top performers. And as we begin to do that, uh, you don't know the backlash, that comes in when you've lifted a guy up real high at a really high level in front of all your other people. And then, you know, you have to let them go, and the backlash that can happen through that. So that was kind of like the snowball at the top of the hill, and it started, and as it began to roll down. So that's where it all started, from that piece. And somehow or another, don't know how it is, but we had three locations at that point, and in a year's time we only had one guy that had been there the year previous, uh, to that at that point. What I learned, so I'll turn back around, I'll tell you what I learned from that piece. um, yeah, I just got to tell you, the things that we were doing were not wrong. They were just, they we just push I just pushed so hard for that, the winning piece, that we had a deal every year. We bring everybody in, we called a banner ceremony in our Northwest Arkansas office. I had this high ceiling in our training room, and we had these banners that we put up for the top people in the organization. So every year, if you were the top guy in revenue here, or in, average ticket, or these different areas, you got to be able to hang your banner up there. And to the point, like, we have this long ladder. They'd be able to get up there. We made a big deal out of it, and they would take the old banner down and throw it down. And they put their banner, up there, and it just, um, there was nothing wrong with it. It just the approach and the way we went at it just ended up building something that wasn't that did make me proud. It did make me proud at the end of the day. And so as we started making changes, we lost everyone at that point. What I learned is, man, my key people I have around me, I will go to war and I will fight for them all day long, and I love them. They're the best team ever. They stuck with me and wore a million different hats, did everything they needed to do. Uh, Todd, I think you know Daryl Boyd, which is came in and he's a part of my business. At this point, he's came in like a partner and runs it that way. He and I took off, and all we did for months was recruit, train, uh, recruit, train, and we have this system we call a 9-step training system. It's very similar to a lot of the other stuff that's out there. It's just our process that we do, and um, we only did it like twice a year. We would bring everybody together and we would do this training twice a year. And um, what we found out is by doing it more often, we would hire 2 guys in Oklahoma City, and Daryl and I would be in front of them, them, training those guys on the 9 steps. The next day they were hired. And then we go to Tulsa and we'd hire somebody, and we would be in front of them train. We all we did was recruit and train. We built back up, and we actually had a better year that year than we did the year before. Uh, and what we found out is we were able to get guys trained up faster because of what we did. And because all the guys are so new that when we did another class, we only have 2 guys in there. Well, wait a minute, I don't want to do it with just 2 guys. Let's pull these other guys in that just went through it last month, and let's let them do it again and go through the class. And so out of that group, I have more ops managers today that are help leading other organizations that came through those new recruits at that time where we went through and poured out that training and doing that piece. So we learned a lot. I don't know uh, how well I laid out where we were in 2017, so everyone understands that, you know, it, you know, it's difficult to be able to explain uh, when you have when you run a business, you understand who the terrorists and who these different people are and the context that they have and what you build a culture from that. Anyway, it burned and we rebuilt it, and it's stronger today because of the things that we do. And today, well, there's not a month that goes by that we don't have that main training class. We train. I mean, you can look in our training rooms, and it's on every wall in every training room. Train hard so the work is easy, and there's every single day we have some sort of a training class uh, that goes on, and we'll split them up between installers maybe a certain day, safety advisors another day, our techs other days, but there's some sort of training going on every single day.
Can I? Do you mind if I? You probably have follow up too.
I do have a
Go
follow-up,
for it. You
yes.
go for it first.
Aaron, you mentioned your core values. So, what are your core values that you brought to the table?
So our first core value, and that's one that's it's really big, is we will make every home safer than we found it, not because of our job, but because it's our responsibility. And that's one that is a huge piece of what we do. It helps us be able to relate to our people that it's not about the dollar at the end of the day. It's not about how much money you can make. It's about are we making homes safer? And I think that became, you know, the piece probably in that 2017 that was misunderstood. The one that we looked at, we're going like, these guys are going out and they're selling things, they're doing things that not what we, not who we are. This is not what we're about. And we want to make sure people understand that, hey, we're going to make every home safer than we found it. And so that was probably the biggest one. You know, you know, there's a lot of, we're going to train hard. Um, we are family. is another one that we talk about. We wholeheartedly believe that a healthy family at home is what makes a healthy family at work possible, and that was a big piece. And we put some teeth behind that. Is we do something differently. I don't know if any other companies do that right now. We started back then adding family days on top of our PTO. What PTO, vacation days, whatever that is, we started adding what we call family days. And we added 4 family days. Every single guy, every single call taker, every person in this company have 4 additional family days that they can use throughout the year. And that means you don't have to call in sick if your kid has a uh, some kind of school performance, or they're getting an award, or they have a little league tournament or something like that, that you can now just, use a family day and get paid to be able to go and do that. And that was us saying, like, hey, listen, we want you to have a healthy family. We know that's important. And so we're gonna put some stuff behind that and be able to do that.
It's really great, Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said it, and I was listening, so I heard it because I was wondering if it were true. And I thank you for being vulnerable. But it is an observation that I have made that at any point in time, a company becomes too competitive at winning, and winning is based off a revenue number. They eventually cheat. They don't want to
Yeah.
cheat, but the pressure drives everyone to cheat. It drives them to misrepresent, to lie, steal, and cheat. And you said that you faced this in 2017, but your core values evolved in 2016. I want you to help me now. I'm going to tell you specifically how I want you
Yeah.
to help me. A couple years back, we added this thing that we call the Success Planner. And the very first steps of the Success Planner are we're going to establish your core values, your mission statement, and your motto. And when a lot of companies come to us and they're brand new, what they initially are thinking is, I just want an increase in averages. And we have a harder than expected time showing them why this is important and why this will be the long driver of their business. Sometimes it can take them 6 months to land the plane on it. And that sounds to me like maybe that's normal. It took you a couple years, but I want you to give a lesson to me and our coaches. How can we reinforce the importance of what we are already doing, but make it impactful to the business owner that's sitting across the table from us?
Here's the thing. The things that you think that you feel are important to you, the way you want to run your business, without having those in front of your people every day, and so they can see it and they understand it, without speaking that, telling that to your people on a regular basis. You think they know it, but they don't know it. And that's what I found out. Because in my heart of hearts, I would never, ever be okay with guys going out and taking advantage of a client, or going out and selling something that someone didn't really need. And I just can't imagine someone doing that. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm at. Like, yeah, I want to be competitive. I want to do that, but I could not imagine that you're going to go out and you're going to do those type things. And the same thing with small business owners, any business owners are out there, they just think everyone else feels the way that they feel, that they see it the same way they see it. It's not like that. It's just not real. You have to understand. And that's what happened when we started really digging in and started seeing that, like, this does not align with our core values. This guy is by far our best guy that we have out there, but you know what? There's some things that are not consistent here, and
Mm.
we've got to make some changes in
Even
that.
the language you're using is interesting because you subconsciously haven't switched. You are still saying he's our best guy because you're only looking at revenue because it's what we've all
Yeah.
been trained to do. We
Mhm.
forget that best
Yeah.
is a lot more than just
Yeah.
revenue. And unfortunately, we
Absolutely.
make our technicians feel that way too. Like, how much revenue did you make? Nah, there's many
Yeah.
many other things. How
Yeah,
did
I
you?
think it's
Yeah.
so easy for a home service owner to fall into that trap, Aaron, because you have your weekly meeting and you're talking about who has the highest revenue, who has the highest average ticket, maybe who has the least callbacks or whatever it might be. But you're always kind of making the guy with the highest sales the quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so dangerous because what I started to do was make sure that I reiterate at every meeting, look, guys, having high sales is important, but the team would not win the game if we just put the quarterback on the field, right? We need the whole team. We need everybody contributing. And so, but I'm very like you, Aaron. I'm very competitive. Like I don't even like my kids winning when we're playing cards at home, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But it's
Hmm.
it is super dangerous. It's super dangerous and you
Yeah.
have to keep reiterating that we want it honestly and ethically. We want high sales honestly and ethically. So I think it's very interesting. You're the first owner I have ever heard that has said, you know, or has at least admitted that that caused a problem in the organization that you created the monster, right?
Hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
think it's very interesting and also very admirable, Aaron, that you were willing to say, okay, we're drawing a line in the sand here, and everybody else is out. Okay.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Alan. I think many people have done it. I just don't think they admit it.
Aaron, just let's talk
I,
about leadership, team development, and culture some more. So you said your business will only grow as fast as your people do. Um, you're quickly learning that scaling a business isn't just about systems, it's about people, developing leaders, keeping communication strong, retaining top talent. And that's been crucial to your success. Your daily 10-minute huddles and keeping your team aligned across multiple locations are super important. At this level, leadership is everything. How has your leadership style evolved over the years?
I think we talked about earlier when it really started that uh, you know I will say I've definitely learned to let go and let my leaders lead, but I'm not completely out of it. And I think that's where some people, in my humble opinion, are messing up at that point when they think, oh, I've got to completely step away and I got to be at home. I can't go into the office because I got to let my leaders lead and do that type stuff. I don't I don't believe that's the case. It's not the case with me. I do want my people to run, and they can. I don't have to be here. This business will run, and we will be very profitable. I have amazing leaders that can run. I don't have to come into the office every day. Here's the difference. Uh, what we don't have, what we don't have in this business right now is I can say. If I exited, we wouldn't have the strength that I bring, and that's looking at this company going, how do we get better? What are we what area do we get better? Everyone else is operating every day, right? They're out there making sure that daily we're excellent in all these different areas that we do. And sometimes you get stuck and going, hey, what areas can we get better? Or even more than that, it's like, where's our next move at? Where are we going next? What's the next thing that we can do to get better? So that's where I've continued to be able to learn. Let them operate. I do believe this too. Um, we There are just not enough operators that are out there right now. I know forever we've talked about we've talked about not having enough techs and not having enough tradespeople, and I agree with that. We need more and more people to be able to get in the trades and be able to do that. But man, we need other guys that have the desire that want to run and operate businesses and can understand that piece, and that we can train that for them. So one of the big things that we've done is, we've started really focusing on training people that we identify have having some leadership stuff and being able to put them in some training to be able to train them up to be someday to be operators and running their own location and be able to do that, because I think that is a massive, massive need that is out there right now. You talk about the PE world that's out there right now, and they're coming in. The one thing is they're extremely smart, very intelligent, much smarter than me, and they can make all the numbers and everything work. What they can't do is operate. uh, and we got to have people that can go out there and learn and know how to operate business. They need that. I need that right now to continue to be able to grow. Probably the biggest reason why I don't go out and buy, you know, four more locations this year is because I got to have some strong leaders, and I've got to develop those guys to be able to get them prepared to be able to go out and do that. So that's some things that I've learned and that we're working on within our business right now.
I think, Aaron, it's actually a potential crisis looming in our industry because all the leaders I know have the same color hair as you and I, right? They're a little bit
Right.
older. They're thinking about like sitting on a beach in the Bahamas versus continuing to do this for the next 20 years. And I don't know that there's the level of leader coming up through some of these organizations that can take over. So I agree with you. We've all been talking about the lack of technicians, but making sure you have succession planning and you're training future leaders are super important as well. I was going to ask you about developing future leaders within Mr. Sparky, but you've
Yeah.
definitely touched on that. So yeah,
Yeah, it's you guys are giving me a million different ideas here for our business, so we'll talk about that offline. But
yeah,
uh, before I forget, I definitely want to say I want to come see what you're doing from a training standpoint. I know I got a lot to learn there, but let's switch over and have a conversation about his relationship with Authority Brands.
yeah. So you're part of Authority Brands, Aaron, and you help bring in new Mr. Sparky franchises. What makes a great franchise owner?
You know, uh, I have an opinion. I have an opinion on that, and it may differ from others. I think, like I said, I still think the best business owners that are out there are guys that have operated from a trade standpoint and then have the knack for business and can step in and learn. Uh, that's why I love to be able to hire within in my company and or to be able to um, move people up into the operation manager standpoint because I think knowing how to do the trade is something that's it's extremely important. I like that, but I think the number one thing is being present. Uh, I just and that's what I every new franchise that comes in that I have a opportunity to be able to talk to, like this isn't a side business. You know, if you want to invest and someone sold you on investing in a business that you can work from afar and you're not present in that business on a regular basis, then you're not going to be successful. I'm sorry, you're just not going to it you can't put someone else in there that's going to have the passion and and are going to have the drive and the determination to be able to every day be able to push the ball forward and move the ball forward and be able to grow without being present.
Hmm.
And that's you know I talked about that with some leaders at our conference this past year. Got to be present. Like my passion was training, right? Like I loved the training piece of it. That was a piece that I knew I may not be great at the other stuff, but man, I'll be able to train some people how to do some stuff. And so I love that piece of it. And maybe that's not some other guys that come into it. Maybe they come in and the accounting piece is better. You know, they're better at that. But be present and lead from being in the business and around the business, and to find the others that can do those things well. But you got to be the leader and the driving force within that business. And I stand behind that. I feel like that's the best businesses, especially growing newer businesses. That's a huge part of it. And the ones that I
Yeah.
see that are succeeding right now are doing that.
Yeah. You know, Aaron, you've grown a business at this point that's in the open market really valuable if it were to get into a transaction. However, the challenge is franchises are not very attractive to the people that are buying right now, which are PE groups. So I'm going to ask you a tough question, which is looking back, do you ever regret actually being tied into a franchise and how that's potentially, affecting the possibility of exiting with a private equity move?
Um, I think that's a stigma that's out there, but I don't think that's reality, Todd.
Tell us about it.
I think I don't think that's reality. I think that there's opportunity out there. Now, you know, will it cost a little? Maybe at that point, but I do think there's opportunity for sure for franchise. So I did. early on when we were running together back in the day, and I was coming to your training classes and all that, back in the clockwork days, when Jim Abrams got in and sold all of us on coming into clockwork, it was about having an exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's always been about having that exit
Always.
strategy and what that looks like at that point. Um, it's never been a huge piece of what I just like what I'm doing every single day. So it's not been something, but I can tell you, I've had plenty of calls of people that are interested in this business, uh, for years, that would definitely be very interested in having a conversation, going forward with this. So I don't, I don't, I think that's definitely the stigma that's out there. I don't think that's full on reality. I think a lot of the business tools that we get by being a franchise set us up really well to be successful if you use those things. And so I think there's a lot of positives to that. But honestly, I think the number one positive thing that you have by being a franchise that you don't have and being an independent that's out there, and this is my opinion, is the network that we have, the brotherhood that you have, that there's not a worry that someone's going to cross me or do something like that or come open up something next door to me or anything like that. We can share openly and freely. We can help each other, and I think that's a really cool part, and it's been a huge part of being able to be able to grow my business is being able to have those relationships that are out there with that. So um, I
Thank you
hear
for
where you're
sharing
coming
that.
from. Yeah,
Well, I appreciate hearing the different perspective, because I'm not familiar with someone having exited that's in a franchise, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. So I appreciate you sharing your perspective on that.
yeah, I can give you some examples. I know multiple people that have and have
Good,
done really well
good,
with
good.
that. Yeah.
So looking ahead, Aaron, you have ambitious goals to get to $100 million in revenue. What is your strategy to make that happen?
Um, so we're going to continue. So I feel like right now, I don't feel like it. I know it. We've got so much more runway with just what we have today without even adding anything else. We will continue to add because that's who we are. That's what we do. But we've focused this year, and it has been even last year as well, is to really go deeper than necessarily wider. I think there's a lot of locations that we have that we can really grow and get a lot deeper, and it'll make a massive impact in that piece. So I think we're scratching the surface in some areas. I think there's some areas that we've grown, uh, that we're really pushing the limits in some areas, but I think there's some other locations that we have that we're just scratching the surface, and we can go so much deeper in those. So I think that's been a real focus of ours.
Mm.
Can I ask a curiosity question, Aaron? I've
Yeah,
been watching
sure.
Ben Franklin, Mr. Sparky, 1 hour since my Plumber Success International days back in the Jim Abrams,
Yeah.
Terry Nicholson time. How does Mr. Sparky compare with Ben Franklin and 1 hour in terms of size, like nationally? Is it third? Is it second? Is it first in terms of revenue nationally?
Yeah, yeah. I think we're still third as a group here. I think we're quickly moving up and uh, catching up to those. I think when you look at a guy like David Conley that owned the Mr. Sparky and had all the Florida locations, and uh, he had a massive business there that has been a great example for us, and they've been great to be able to deal with them. Looking at them, and then our growth, and we're at, and there are several others that are just quickly moving up the Mr. Sparky ranks, and are growing very, very quickly. I think we're seeing a lot. Our growth is at a much higher scale than what we're seeing uh, the others. I think heating and air overall, I think had a rough year last year. In that I think they're going to rebound definitely. But No, I think well, I believe it. We may have moved into two there, but I think we're still third, but I think we're close.
It's impressive what you guys have
It
done
really
for
is.
sure. Yeah.
Well, Aaron, now Alan's question has me curious. Is David larger than your group, or are you the largest in your group now?
So yeah, David has exited. So he's not, their group is bigger than than ours is
Was
right
he the
now.
guy that
We're
exited to
the
PE?
largest. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thanks for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. And I think they've been quite a bit bigger than what we are
Okay,
at this
follow-up
point.
question.
So
Just because I got to know.
yeah.
He exited to PE. Did they continue to be Mr. Sparky's when they exited?
Yeah.
Oh,
They're still Mr.
fascinating.
Sparky.
Hmm.
You bet.
Good deal.
I didn't
Yep.
know you could do that. Yeah.
Well, I figured you could do it. I didn't know if private equity would want to do it.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
they
Yeah.
don't like giving up those points.
Yeah. True. True.
That's very helpful, man.
Well, I think
So,
those points cost you a little bit on doing that, but no, there's definite guys out there that he's not the only one
yeah.
that has either,
I,
Todd. So
being in the private equity world myself, Aaron, I will tell
hmm
you, it's always a multiple of EBITDA, and EBITDA will
yeah,
be calculated after the franchise points. So if you didn't have the
right.
franchise points, then obviously your EBITDA would be higher. But if you're producing $20 million of EBITDA or $5 million of EBITDA, you're getting a multiple on that. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter what the expenses are to
that's
get
right.
there, really, at the end of the day. So
That's right. So we got just a few questions here before we wrap. You had submitted back some information back to me and said, the real critical things were my relationship with my wife, and we covered that. And you said how
hmm
your relationship with your faith and with Christ affects things. So tell us a little
hmm
bit, and maybe this all come full circle with those core values. How does your faith and relationship with Christ navigate you through your business?
So I've always had a strong faith. I mean, this is something that's it's foundational, in my life. It's just there, and I know it's there. Um, I believe it's there because I think it helps when we talk about that resilience and that grit piece. When you talk about faith and you talk about what faith is, at its core, it's believing without being able to see it, right? At that point. And I think that's been a huge piece of knowing that the decisions that I make in this business, big, small, whatever, at that point, that regardless of the outcome, regardless of whether, it's a really great decision or it's another one that we count up as a failure and then we're going to learn from at that point, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. My future is good. I feel good. I feel like um, I know that I am blessed. I know that God has his hand on me, on this business, on my team that's here, uh, because that's a relationship that I have, and so I don't have to waver in that. I don't have to worry about that. I know it's going to be all right, even if the decision that I make is doesn't work out. I'm going to be okay. It's going to be all right. So I don't have to stress about that. Now I know I've got to put the work in. I'm not saying that this stuff is big, but I do know without a doubt, my faith is there, is strong, that it gives me the confidence to know that it's going to be okay. And I've seen it. I'm just a second generation electrician that wasn't too long ago wiring houses in Rogers, Arkansas. That running a $50 million business and continuing to grow. I'm telling you, I'm not the sharpest guy in the world. There's the hand of God that has been a part of this entire journey that you can't deny. You just can't deny with that. So that is
Aaron,
that's a yeah.
what you're saying about knowing it's going to be okay and having that belief is so huge. And I'm a real big advocate in learning in all areas, secular as well as religious. And one of the things that modern counselors and psychologists are having to come to grips with, and most of these people being secular, is that there is an undeniable state of mental well-being in people that have some sort of strong spirituality in their life. It's not exclusive to Christianity, but when they have a strong spirituality in their life and they have a faith in something much bigger than money, that they tend to be
Yeah.
much happier and healthier people.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, if you many successful entrepreneurs have daily habits that keep them focused. Do you have any personal routines or rituals that set you up for success?
From a personal standpoint, um, yeah, I mean, it's the same type, same type things that a lot of others. I have my quiet time. I have my time that's set up every day that we do that. Uh, we come in and I multiple days a week, 2 to 3 days a week. I take my youngest to school and drop him off at school, and I'm very intentional with that time. I did it with my oldest as well, and so I get time with him. I get time to share with him. I get time to talk with him. Some of my favorite times ever were with those boys, with by themselves, stuck in a car early morning, taking to football practice or basketball practice early, and being able to really, I don't know, something about being stuck in there and just having those conversations for a personal level. That's been a huge part. I wouldn't change that for anything. I wouldn't be able to do that. There was a long time that I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not let someone else handle certain trainings in the morning and do different things in the morning so that I could be able to do that. But that's been a huge part of mine. I know not everyone can do that, but that has been. But then to move into our morning rhythm, our meeting rhythm that we have is another piece. Not necessarily personal, but from a business standpoint, that meeting rhythm has set us up for success. After our trainings in the morning, we have our 10-minute huddle. And the 10-minute huddle is like what we talked about. It's probably my favorite time of the entire day. It's a time that I get to know all the different guys. We go down the leaderboard and we talk about everybody in there that hit their minimum number for the day, they're going to get a shout out. And we have nicknames for every one of them. Everybody's got a nickname. We just have fun with it. It's silly. It's but it is without a doubt fun. We have a guy that it's just ridiculous. We have a guy that's uh, he's always on the leaderboard, and he's got the nickname. I'm not going to go into detail why he has the nickname, but the whale. And so just I don't know why it progressed in this. So now every time he comes on, we have to have a whale sound for him. So what we'll do is the guy that came just under the Mendoza line that didn't get the shout out, he's got to be the guy that gives the whale sound every day. So when it comes out, and we have different sounds, we have different things. It just our whole idea is to start their day off right and for them to have fun with the laugh. We are it is not a serious meeting. It is not something that we are getting on them about mistakes or anything like that. It is definitely a meeting that we're lifting guys up. We want them to go out and be successful in that, and that's been I think it's been a massive part of helping grow the culture here, and that's just what we do in our trainings. One of the things that we decided to do um, years ago is I wanted to make sure that I was very approachable. I didn't want to make it feel like that I was in an ivory tower somewhere and they couldn't talk to me or something like that as we continue to grow. And so we started making like these little videos and usually it's Daryl and I that make these videos and just it may be remaking some silly part of a movie. It may be just something that we're doing. Usually it's something that is makes fun of ourselves. We're making fun of ourselves and we'll put it out there and have fun with it. And so guys, it's another way, like we talked about being vulnerable, is being relatable with people, that they can relate with us and see that, hey, these guys are just dudes that like to have fun and are just being silly and doing this kind of stuff. And so we'll have that huddle, and then we'll move into, once that's done, we'll have what we call a scrum. Our scrum is our meeting that we have with all of our leadership. So if you're a manager in this business, you're a part of that scrum, and we have a rhythm to that meeting that we go into, and that way everyone is talking. No one feels like they're left on an island. There's an area time in that we're going to talk about stucks. So if someone needs help, one of my ops managers in a location needs help with something, and they're not seeing that, that's their time. They know it's the time to be able to ask for it, and we'll make sure, they get the help and we're doing the things that we need to do. It's so important we found that meeting is so important for us to be able to have successful guys out running these other locations, that they feel like they've got the support behind them, and having a meeting that's set up that, hey, we're going to go through all this, and then we're going to take on any issues where you need help. We're going to be able to, we're probably going to take it offline, because that's meeting set up to be 15 minutes. And when you get as many people in that meeting as we have now, sometimes that's a challenge. But there are times we'll set a timer and just, set the timer to make sure we're hitting at the same time. So anyway, I don't know if that helps with
No, it does. It
routines,
really
but that's
does,
what we
Aaron.
do.
Yeah. I have one last question, Aaron, but before I ask it, I just want to say your love for the business that you're running, like, just jumps out of the screen at me. Like, very rare I talk to a lot of business owners. Very rarely do I talk to somebody that truly loves their business as much as you do, and I just want to compliment you on that. It's very, very transparent. So my
Thank you.
last question, Aaron, is what's next for you, both personally and professionally?
Oh, I'm not done here. I'm continuing to continue
You're
to
having too much
to.
fun, Aaron. That's why.
People ask me, when do you want to get out? And I was like, well, I guess when I stop having fun, and I'm just having fun. I enjoy what I do every day. I enjoy the leadership. I'm a student of leadership, and I have been for now 30 years. I've been studying leadership, and it's something that I geek out, that I love to do, and I love to try to, part of what I do. I love to try to make things better. I love to watch things grow. It's been part of me my entire life. I just love to watch things grow, and so as we continue to grow, every day I'm having fun. I just want to continue to make it better and do it right, do it the right way. And no, I love what I'm doing. I think this is part of my future plans, and I think once that's the only next step is, I love it. I get to have fun every day. I work with the people that I love. I love this team. Like, the people that are around me every day. I get to come to work and hang out with these people. So we get to have a good time together. So I enjoy that. I love spending time with my family, and sharing experiences that that they may never have another opportunity to be able to do. Maybe they are. Hopefully they will, and get to do new things and take them to new places, and them see new things is really important to me. I have a big deal. I don't like missing any game that my kids are in. And they're all in sports, all kind of different sports. And so I've been traveling all over the state of Arkansas to high school basketball tournaments for the last few weeks, which uh, been on the road a whole lot. But man, there's nothing that brings me more joy than doing that.
That's great. That's
So,
great, Aaron.
so Aaron, this will be how we'll wrap up today. You have a magic phone
Yeah.
call, but the thing is that you've only got about 30 seconds to say what you got to say. But you're calling your younger self at some point in the past. What would you say?
Stay the course. Stay the course. Just keep fighting. It's it's going to work out really well. Keep doing it. Love it what you're doing every day. Keep enjoying what you're doing. I think it's been a key to my success. I think it's just having enjoying what I'm doing. Uh, I'm not the smartest guy. I don't have all the answers. But man, I like what I'm doing.
Good deal. Well, Aaron, we both really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
We have learned a ton, and we look forward to a next conversation.
It was great meeting you,
Awesome. It's
Aaron.
been a great
Thank
time.
you.
Hey, great to meet you too.
All the
Good
best.
talking.
Take care.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and True Grit Todd Liles.